Hello everyone, welcome back, and time for a new update. Quite an intense beginning of a new year, well, this year. A lot has happened since the last update. It's been a crazy intense period with a lot of good and weird and some terrible things as well. It's kind of hard to describe it, but I'm going to call it hope, because it started with hope and it ended in hope. So let's start where we left it off, which was end of December. Around Christmas, I was out and about, well, doing one of my evening walks in one of my favorite areas, and I noticed that the energy was different. I mean, it was like whenever there's a shift, either for me internally or generally, because there's another activation, there's another upgrade in general, of course things feel and look different. But this time was just completely different, like it was another level. And that was, I think, around Christmas or after Christmas. No, Christmas Eve. It was Christmas Eve. And I was walking, it's like, wow, this is not the same reality. It can't be, there's too much magic right now, it can't be. And that's how it started, the spirit, like really magical, into this new year. Around that time I was also healing from the crazy, this low point that happened in November, which was actually the accumulation of whatever, all this activation and stress and things that happened throughout last year. And I explained in the previous update what happened. So I was getting better at that time, but things got again really crazy and again affected my well-being, my health later. So weather has been one of those things that has been that obvious component that something is happening, something is changing, something's going on. And like I said at other times in other videos, that yes, there are natural changes that are a result of this upgrades, this infusions of energy that basically override the information, so they bring a new layer of information. And my cause in the physical reality, well, all sorts of weird things, storms, the sudden, like it's cold now and then it's warm. But now in this period of time where what I'm talking about, what I will talk about, there were a lot of forced moments, and one in particular period which was very, very intense. It was from 22nd of January, I would say, until the 24th of February. And that was like we went on a loop, like whatever was supposed to come in was stopped, because there was a lot of energy pulsating, as I said, starting as I was feeling this, like increasing from around Christmas time into the new year, and also into my birthday. And then right after my birthday was like, bam, this, like, what the hell is this? And well, it was correlated with the election, this play on, like, some timeline wants to be, well, play out, I mean, to be inserted a certain specific type of result was planned to happen, but somehow things haven't been stopped. But this period, the 22nd of January to the 24th of February, was really, really intense, because it was more than just like, oh, it was cold. I explained also at other times that yes, there is global warming, but the global warming that I'm talking about has nothing to do or cannot be stopped by, is not generated by necessarily pollution. Yes, pollution plays a part in how things are, but not really. This kind of like heating up is not generated by that. And I gave you a very clear example with the UV index. Even if there are low temperatures, like, I don't know, in March or February, like say 6 degrees, sometimes there's days where like, I don't know, 6 degrees Celsius, and you would have an index of like 5 or 6. Actually 2 years ago would be some days like 7 or 8. And that's why there was so much pressure last year and this year to do this kind of things. Think of it like you have a 100 gram of an apple and 100 gram of chocolate. They do not have the same caloric content. And the content itself of 100 gram of apple is different than 100 gram of chocolate. The apple has more water, fiber, and I don't know, also some sugars. And of course antioxidants and whatever other good stuff. Chocolate, I'm not saying it's completely bad, but it's fat, sugar, and some other things depending on what kind of composition you make that chocolate from, whatever. So it's different. 100 grams of chocolate is different, has more calories than 100 gram of apple, but it's still the same. It's 100 gram and 100 gram. So it's the same with temperature here. It's not that it's getting warmer, there's more degrees, like, oh, the temperature rise beyond a certain like unexpected level, because I've experienced many years before, like even, I don't know, more than 20 years ago. I'm born on the same latitude as where I live right now, so I experience types of like 45 degrees days Celsius, I mean, or even like, it was a summer where I lived through 52 degrees Celsius, and it was like, it was unbreathable, but it was dry, so it was fine. It was this, I don't know, some heat wave from Africa or whatever, that was like more than 20 years ago, something like that. But that was like rare, that would like be like, but still would happen. So in the last few years, I haven't really experienced summer days that would go up as like higher than, I don't know, 33, 35, more than that. I don't think I've experienced here where I live currently. And so not the temperature, actually there's been lower temperature than in previous years, I would say, but it's the caloric, the actual, the quantity of energy, the heat that's emerging, the radiation that is coming through, it's bigger, it's more and more, and that's what makes it warmer and warmer. That's why I said it's like, could be 15 degrees Celsius outside and we're in the sun, and then it's a UV index of like 10 or 11, which is very, very high, and it's like you don't understand what's going on, and you feel like you're burning because of that, because of this. If the UV index says it's 10 or 11, it's like it's like strong, very strong, so there's a lot of heat radiation coming through. So that's why I say it's like, it's not the same sun, it's not the same reality. So they're trying to stop this at any cost, and this affects our biologies. It's very stressful on our bodies and on our health. And for me, it was particularly hard while I was trying to recover from what happened last year. And you know, these days you don't have to kill somebody with anything else besides just derail their biorhythms and like make them go into the overdrive by not allowing the certain whatever things to relax, nerves or whatever sensitive, and then they consume themselves from inside out, and then if they're not aware of that, they might die just because. So so be aware of those things and take good care of your bodies, because that's really, really important in the years to come, to take care of your health and your bodies, because you're going to need it if you want to continue the journey. Yeah, so in this period of time was extremely, extremely hard for me. Physically, like physical food wouldn't really help at all. It was just barely keeping me alive. I lost weight, I lost a lot of energy. it wasn't just like, oh, there was these days where you feel like flattened out by, sometimes there's like, they cut the power, so to speak. But it was like somebody was cutting my oxygen. That was just like, I couldn't breathe. It was just like I plunged into the water, and I didn't know when I'm going to get the next breath of air. And like, when is it going to end? When is it going to end? And toward the end of this crazy period, I introduced some wheatgrass to my smoothies, and this helped. And whenever I could, I did a little bit of clearing whenever I was possible, because it was like, this period was really challenging, and it's like, even if I wanted to clear go into certain things that I wanted, it's like it's like it was impossible. And only there were moments where I like, oh, now I can sneak in and like just attack it, so to speak. So that's it's very tricky. And by the way, if you are if you're afraid, this is a parenthesis, if you're afraid of AI, you just get over it. I mean, AI exists here for a very long time, and I'm not talking about Alexa, play my favorite song, or Siri, tell me when my mother's birthday is. No, I'm talking about things that are beyond your control and knowledge, and things that play with us, with the realities and all sorts of things. So get over it and just do your best, and always work with yourself, because that's how you're going to actually get through this. Coming back to the weather, so yes, that was very, very challenging this month. In March was more or less like waves, where things could finally, I felt like a release, and things could be like, oh, okay, some hope, some whatever ahead. April was the beginning of April. It was a big shift, a big threshold, and things started to move like again upwards again. It was just like, oh, finally. But that doesn't mean it's not a bumpy ride. It, like right now when I'm filming, it's raining, and the energy is like very low, and then right now it's kind of blocking me. But I'll do my best to just do this. Not that it's like the first or the last time when I'm going to have obstacle doing this. So yeah, weather has been one of those big elements of this period that affected everyone. Me in particular, as I said, what I experienced was a lot of loss of energy, and it was just like, I felt like somebody cut my oxygen, and it was almost impossible. I pray for him, like, come on, please end this already, because I'm going to die if this is going to go on. So yeah, weather-wise was really crazy, and will continue like this. So you have to really take care of your health. As for physical changes, as I was mentioning also in a previous update, this of course has been correlated with this like weather changes that are becoming more and more strong, as like more apparent in our reality. And throughout last year and until this year, I've experienced such sensitivities that I never in my life imagined that I would experience, with basically everything. With my teeth, with like whatever, doesn't matter what I eat or what I drink, almost all the time I would feel this like weird sensitivities that I never really had before. And things like, I don't know, like chocolate, that was my guilty pleasure, so to speak. Well, I was vegan, but like from time to time, even this would become something that became a problem. Any type of like exciter, like when I have chocolate or green tea. I don't drink coffee, I never drank coffee. And usually the tea that I drink is like herbal tea. But from time to time I would have my, whatever, fun time tea, which would have some green tea in it. And I noticed over the summer last year that was becoming increasingly harder for me to like unwind, and like unable to like unplug. So that was the problem, was like what was draining me, and to the point where like, oh my God, it's really bad. But thank God I I stopped that point. But that doesn't mean it's easy. And as I see that now this level is increasing, and as I said, you have to understand that this is not this easy, say, ascensions, like we're just doing this, no, this is a battle. This is a battle for resources, for energy, and everything matters at this point. And resources are being stolen from basically everyone, and certain things are being stopped from accessing certain individuals and things, so they won't be able to do their work. But nothing, as I said, can be stopped or delayed forever. Yes, it will be bumpy, but with work you can overcome even the worst things. So yeah, in terms of physical changes, this increasing sensitivities toward basically everything. The food that the amount of food that I would have would be less, like when I consume, because of what happened not just last year but the year before that with my gut. I told you, like, I could not anymore go into longer periods of being dry or anything, because of I would have to take my supplements. But even so, I kept everything to a minimum, but never, like, I couldn't go beyond this point. I mean, more than that, and was like unnecessary at this point. But also, as I said, the conditions were this complicated that wouldn't allow for something like this. So the only thing that really helped, especially in this last month or so, was wheatgrass. I included in my, not because before that I didn't have it, but it was in a mix with wheatgrass, but now it's just wheatgrass. And for the last, I think, 2 weeks now, I'm just doing some barley grass juice powder, yes, and I just mix it with water, and I drink it after I take my supplement for my gut, whatever, this glutamine and whatever, certain herbs things mix. Anyways, so this really has helped. But then again, as I said, nothing really feels, everything feels for me, whatever I eat, whatever I drink, feels weird. Nothing feels normal anymore. It's the feeling is ghostly. It's like artificial. It's like cardboard, or like the taste. These things, how it dissolves and how it disappears. I explained this many times before, at other times years ago. But it's more than just that. It's just, how should I say? It's more than just like it's ghostly. It's unnatural. It's a weird feeling. I don't know how to describe this. It's very hard to describe this feeling. It's plastic, and that's the best way I can describe at this point. It's really weird, and because of this, like, as I said, this pull, like one's in one direction and the other one another direction, everything feels like harder. It feels like moving through like a jelly kind of, I don't know, thing, and it's very hard to just move forward, and you have to have so much patience and be disciplined. Well, thank God for that in my life, because otherwise would be basically impossible to move through this time in a way that it is, I mean, to keep yourself at a level where you still have clarity and you can still do the inner work, and basically like keep yourself on the path. This time it's quite hard if you haven't really done the work before. But it's much easier for those that only start now, because that's the paradox. Because those that only start now, they don't understand what lies ahead of them, what work lies ahead of them. But as you advance and there's more work done, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So yeah, in this sense, it hasn't been easy. It's just one day at a time, and that's it. In this period of time, this what I call it the loop, within this period of time, there was a particular low moment where there actually were a few, but there was one particular moment, I think was like the 17th of February, yeah. And it was this really bad day. Although there were a few shifts before that, but there was like momentary things where certain things could happen, and there was a few eliminations. And my husband was scared because one day woke up and then he saw 2 spheres coming out of my back. They were like kind of like wooden spheres. One contained like branches or things like, oh, she's eliminated something or whatever. Something's been taken, and he was scared because it's like he didn't know what to do. And he closed his eyes as those things were coming out of my body. Anyway, side note, sorry. But anyway, back to that was, as I said, that was a positive, whatever, evacuation moment. But on the 17th of February was such a low day that I remember this was in a long time, I was like, I'm a big fan of like Tolkien. I like Lord of the Rings and things like that. So I used to watch this quite a lot. I used to have marathons of watching Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, whatever, many years ago. And in the past, I don't know, 4 years, I don't know exactly, I couldn't do that anymore because the energy has changed. A lot of things have changed, so I wasn't able to do that anymore. I wasn't there anymore. And this particular like low moment brought me to a place where it's like, I could actually watch this today. Makes sense. And I could I really enjoyed it like I really did back then, like fully immerse myself into what that story wanted to express from the energy level at which that was like made, which meant that actually we lost so much energy that we went back in time at least 15, if not more, 20 years, something like that, 15 years, we went back. I remember that day and then came back. But it's like there are days that things like this happen, that there is so much loss of energy that is like, and as I said, like I think I said that I lost also weight, and it was really strange and like scary for me. But I was noticing also these other effects, which I actually have noticed for years. Like I could not watch certain things, films, music, to listen to, because they didn't make sense. But now, as this loss of energy happened, it pushed us right back into like 15 years like mode type of whatever reality. So I was able to do that and enjoyed it. But the next day, it's like, I remember that I enjoyed it, but like it was a distant memory. It's like I could not relate anymore. But from one day to the next, it was very strange. Also in this period of time, I've witnessed so much like ugliness around me, coming from people's the shadows cannot be suppressed anymore by food, they just like they're there, they're having more of a physical presence, and if you're sensitive enough, you start to see it or feel it at least, and it's quite scary to see what's around you if you're around, certain things, people, and whatever. So it was really strange in this sense. And there was so much, as I said, there was aggressiveness and irritability, all sorts of like weird sensations, but also, as I said, like lack of energy, like somebody cut the oxygen. I'm talking about a general picture here, not just necessarily about me, but like what I experienced in whatever I was doing, whatever I was at in that period of time. Although there was also moments where things looked better and felt we have a break from the chaos and the stress and the aggressiveness. It was really quite intense, and I felt like it was never going to end, but thank God it did. So yeah, that was a really low point, and I thought it would this would kill me. It's too much, but somehow I'm here. Although this really dark period in February, end of January, until basically end of February, So this month there was this, there were also a few moments of, like, as I said, upgrades, shift. And one of the sparkly, what I call a sparkly moment, was right after I included some the wheatgrass in my smoothies. I put a lot of it in the first 2 days, something like that, and it gave me like this boost of energy and like clarity. It's like, yes, thank you, because there was nothing else to help me, to give me that. And you know, like, wheatgrass and barley grass is basically like liquid gold in this sense. So they're very, very powerful. And I think it was the first or the second night after that, I finally had some like moments of like clarity where I could just again have my inner vision back. Because as I said, for me, this is not anymore, oh, I have some moments and I have some visions here and there, or aha moments, whatever. For me, I have daily basically where I am moved ahead, I'm shown things, I'm whatever, but there's these periods of time where there's loss of energy and it's like somebody's blocking my inner view, you understand? And it's terrible. It's like you cannot see ahead, and it's like there's only a few things that you can do to help yourself to move through this period of basically darkness. That's actually when you employ faith. It's like how you continue further. That's what faith for is. To go through in periods where there's no light ahead. Anyway, so there was this moment after I started including wheatgrass in my smoothies, and it was one night I was just dreaming, but became like, it started sometimes, as I said, like a dream, but then again I become awake. I'm aware of what's happening. It started as a black and white thing, and then it changed into color, and I saw this beam of like blue light, like a sky, like big thing coming through, and I saw these patterns, this structure, these things, and I could read them, and they would show me information from, well, like what's to come. Well, it's coming, but it's untranslatable right now because it's from a much higher point in energy. But I was just saying, doing that helped me to access enough light inside myself so I can have this transmission, so I can actually see those things ahead. And moments like these, they help me to be more and more resilient with moments, or in moments like what happened in February and at other times where there's no light, there's just nothing. And you have to keep going, because like, no, I know there is the light is beyond those clouds. Like, I know that it's like, I know how it feels, I know how it looks like. You can't fool me. So this was one of those moments where it was like, you can't fool me. No, I know what's beyond that. And it was kind of also like a reminder, just like, you know how it feels, you know how it looks, you know what this is about, and you know that there's always magic behind this curtain of like darkness and fear and nothing. So the beginning of March was very interesting. From the 1st until the 7th were a few interesting events marked this period, this first week, I would say. One was actually right at the beginning on the 1st of March, when there was like what I call a death point. There was like a death, it's like I was visited again by death, so to speak. It was this emptiness, the voice knocked on my door again, and it's like, do we continue? Do we get out? What do we do? And because there was this drag, they are forcing also certain beings out that are pushing things in another direction. So I had to work really, really hard to keep myself on track. So that was another very sensitive moment, but I pushed through. Another interesting thing was on the 5th. When I was visited during the nighttime, was sleeping in my dream, woke me up. There was this being really tall from, well, other dimension, and was puzzled. It's like it connected to me, to my whatever this area, throat, heart center, and basically forced me to identify myself, like, who am I? Because was surprised of what I was doing. It was surprised because of what I am doing. And it forced the answer from me, but I was just only half of it. The sensitive part remained inside me. And the moment I said that, I had no choice, I had to say it, it left me alone. But that was kind of weird and kind of scary. But it was, so things like that happen. On the 7th, there was what I call a threshold in energy, where although all these blockages, all these things happen, the loss of energy, it's just like, this is like no words at this point. Like, no, it's like, no, it's not possible what's happening right now. Yet what's going on, all of it. Anyway, so it was a big threshold where I felt like things open up and I could see like hope again, like and I could see ahead also for myself in certain directions, personal directions that until now I felt blocked in my personal life. And also with this, actually this happened because another layer around me was expressed itself, another layer expressed itself of understanding. It wasn't just something, as I said, it's like when you crystallize something and then it becomes a thing. So it became a thing, and there was another layer around me, and more understanding and more, tolerance towards certain things that until now have been hard to deal with. And so the beginning of March was quite quite interesting. The month of March was also marked by important moments in healing, of healing for me, important things. Finally I reached the point of like healing with those things. I started to say about this particular thing that has to do with this particular healing. And the last update, when I was saying that in this reality I never really felt safe, supported, it was always this feeling. That doesn't mean that throughout my life I didn't have some people that obviously took care of me or supported me in a certain way, but generally I felt like I'm on my own in this reality. And because the way I am, and and I always felt like if I really show myself, that's not going to be safe if I really show myself. And this feeling of not being supported and like feeling on my, basically you're out in the cold and you're all by yourself, has translated into all sorts of events and situations in my life, all sorts of struggles, not because I intended it to be like this, but it was part of the scenarios, like it was a part of the things that I was supposed to experience that would lead to this point in awareness. And I never really, until now, I never thought that something was missing. Why was like, first of all, why did I feel this like sense of like, okay, I'm not feeling safe? And it was until this moment where, well, without going into details why the situation, it's like I was at home after a busy day and was relaxing, was watching a podcast, and this person also was talking about certain experiences that she, healing moments that she was experiencing. Was something random, but then again, there's nothing random about anything. And it was just instant click, where it's like I felt how my core, I never felt like until then that my core was displaced. And I felt this like sphere moving back into me, like here, into the core of my being. And then for the first time in my life, I felt the support. that was missing my entire life. And it's like, and it was like this level of stillness. I experienced levels of stillness before, but like there was a silence with stillness at the same time. I don't know to explain this better than this. And like after that, I felt like I could never really force myself to spread myself thin. Not that I like to spread myself thin, but because of those things that I said, like not feeling really supported, I knew that if I need to do whatever I needed to do in life, I had to split myself. You have to do this task, and it's like me and myself. You know, it's like, okay, this part does this task, this part does that task, and this part does the other task. So I had to place part of myself in different areas so I can feel like, okay, to create that support that never really existed for me. So it's like I came here with a deficit, so I had to like overcome this deficit that I came with. And in that moment, that deficit stopped to exist. Like now the core came back to its like house, and it was more than just like it stopped just that. It's like it was a thing that always existed, but for me was not supposed to express until a certain point in energy because of like whatever I needed to do. And it's part of another layer of awareness where certain things are part of another awareness, and it's like nobody can take back that knowing that you're going to be okay no matter what. So for me, that was the moment where I knew that I'm going to be okay no matter what, because until then for me it was very hard for me to trust that I will be okay no matter what. And I had to fight against it. I mean, I fought against it with whatever I could, but that was the moment where that thing, like the fight, stopped for me in this sense. And that night after this event, I was like, it was showing me how to untangle this whole thing, and it was showing me what that meant from a higher perspective, from higher levels, and yeah, it was just this amazing silence and stillness at the same time, but then again like full support. And like I could, at this point I could not really like run from, not run because I never ran from myself, but like I could never really split myself again like I did. Like here, this part of me goes there to do this part of me goes there to do that, and whatever, so we can cover all places like to be safe and whatever. So I could not do that again. After that I knew that I have to like stay here. As I said, I never ran away from anything, but it's like I could never really split myself. It's like, okay, to help myself if things are weird, it's like I have to stay here in the middle, and that's it. As I was saying, the month of March meant that a lot of healing took place, a lot of important moments as like threshold, and things that finally found like the end, so to speak, in certain regards for me. And they were marked by this kind of like, as I said, the important healing. Then another one was like a continuation. It was because it was like a sequence, but also a lot of weird things were happening in the background, personally, whatever, around the house, and with my husband, with what as like work, things to replace. It was about a lot of things to replace, and it was kind of stressful, and it was stressful. It was unexpected, and there was like, what now? What now? There's like every day basically another thing, and I was like, okay, what's the problem? It's like what's this showing me? And I found again those things that I've been clearing for, I mean, before that many times over. But as I said, you always have to revisit them, because if you're not done, you're not done. It's like, yes, you clean about a certain subject, but until you reach another level in energy where that thing finally can you can release that, you're not done with it. And sometimes it's not just your own doing, it's also energetically, it's like certain things that are superimposed. And that's why I said it's also the environment here. There's certain things that are like placed like extra, I say hardship, extra weight on people to never basically set themselves free. So you have to be persistent. That's the reason why you have to clean all the time. Well, among many other things. And I'm like, okay, what now? What am I supposed to do? What is showing me? And I saw what it was showing. Okay, let's see if it works now. And it did. And also I felt how the energy drain, which happened in this past month, stopped. And finally I could release certain things that were really, really painful in certain regards. And in this time I actually started including barley grass and to release pain and things that affected my livers, like feeling tired. And like I knew that as like I needed to like finally, as I was releasing this particular thing, I felt it like my liver was, I knew that it took a lot of the hit. It's like when I was like accumulating that pain, it's like, okay, finally we're releasing this thing. It wasn't like I didn't want to release that before, but there was not enough energy to just remove it because this was too painful and it was not enough power to just do that without basically killing me. And now it was. And as I was doing this particular release, like finally there was enough energy and light to do this, I felt extremely tired, really, really tired. I feel like I need another year to recover from the tiredness that I felt. And I incorporated the barley grass juice powder, and I would do it like with water in the morning after the supper. No, I was just doing just this. I did, yeah, in this past 2 weeks, I think. Yeah, I've done this a lot, or more than 2 weeks. I don't know anymore. Anyway, something like that. But it was like it was more than just 2 weeks. I can't think. Yeah, and for the first 3-4 days, I felt completely like destroyed. And but as I was like letting this like to release, and because it had to, other things rearranged. And at the same time, in that moment when I released that stuff, it was like another, as I said, there was a return of the core. Now I could not move anymore from this place because the core returned to its home. And now there was this an immovable stillness. There was just like, stay here. Like you can't spend energy on those things anymore. You can't give them power anymore. Keep your energy here. It's like, because before that I would just like give my energy to those things. It's like I couldn't. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. So like it stopped me. So it's like I felt in a way like I was like not drugged, like under anesthesia or something like that, feeling like anesthetized or something like that. And it was just impossible. Even if I wanted to, it's like I couldn't. So it's an important moment. And as I said, it's like all these things have, as they were released out of my system, they brought like the next level and something else. I'll explain to you. And like I could move really to the next level. It wasn't just healing. It's like, because I've been doing this for years, but there's things that were so painful that could not be released, not because I didn't want to or whatever, but like energetically also the environment. And this thing was, first of all, it was painful, but the environment has overimposed things that only now it was possible for me to release this thing. So yeah, that was another really important moment. I would like to end this update with this particular, whatever, more like sparkly moment, so to speak, that actually is a moment of hope, which basically is encapsulating what I actually try to say, I mean, by titling this particular time period as hope. Beginning of April, as I said already, that March already had great things happening healing point, some shifts, important shifts, but in beginning of April it felt like, oh yes, finally. One of those moments was on the 6th when I was reading something that had to do with me. I don't want to say what. And as I was reading this thing, I had this vision. I was transported in the future, and I see myself and my mother beyond a certain point in energy where we could see our life, ourselves, and our journeys for what they were. And that's a point beyond fear, and where life actually has a different meaning. And I could see ourselves free and happy, like truly happy. Like finally I could see her as like, she got it. It's like as I got her already. But it was more than just that. Right now life is still very small. And it's because of how the energy is right now. It's very constricted. Most people do not have enough space inside them to actually see what life is and what life could be, and what life is actually beyond fear, because that was this thing what it was showing me. Is like, this is where we're heading. I was like, I know that's where we're heading. Actually, where we're heading to great magical things. It's just only magic ahead beyond a certain point. It was this, it's like, I want to say that although right now most people I know live in the darkness, not because they want to be in the darkness, but because they don't know how to get out of it. And they're lost in whatever they're lost inside themselves, patterns, things, feelings, judgments, whatever. And they don't have the space to see outside of those things, so those things take up all the space inside themselves. I want you to know that there is more than just that. There is really more than just that. It's not just a nice thing to say, but that's what the future is, what the future of humanity that moves beyond a certain point in energy, as in like beyond fear. Life is much, much bigger than that. And whatever you think that life is right now, you will see that that was just, it was like wasn't true. It was true for this level, but it's not what life is. And life has a different meaning beyond fear, beyond a certain point in energy. And also, not just that day, I think the day after, I needed to unclog the drain in the bathroom. Another thing to unclog. So I couldn't find it anywhere, so I went to Walmart, and I stopped on my way to finding this thing, this product, in the bag section, and I was like, I saw this cute like happy canvas bag which had written "Inspire" on it, and as I saw this bag, it transported me right back into the future, into that reality that as I said, I carry with me since I was a kid. And I'm like, I was back home again. I was like, I was in the middle of a shop and I was actually back home, where I know my home is. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I said that this period of time, or I call it hope, because even though it's going to continue to be bumpy, at least for me now, I've been through so many things that I can't anymore be fooled by the darkness. It's just very hard for me physically sometimes, although, as I said, I work to get this, to do this better, as I'm continuing to release whatever things that are inside me that need to leave, like I said, pain and things like that. But as I said, this is not just like me working, is also like there's things that are superimposed, and I have to be diligent and persistent and disciplined to continue to do all those things, to move through them. I can see ahead no matter what. Like I know that when it's darkness, if it's terrible, I know that's just a phase. Even if it's intense, even if you feel like, oh, I'm not gonna make it, it's too much, too much. And somehow you find a way and you come out on the other side better, stronger. Okay, one more thing. Like to conclude this is like, although I don't know, maybe I already said that, but in terms of like patterns and what life is, I've already said that, but I feel like it's important to say this as well. Life has expired. For me, at least, has expired. It's a superimposed reality that, like as I said, certain things are forced to be at a certain level, although they are not there anymore. And because of this, for me, life feels like so tiring, so exhausting, because whenever as I said, I'm going through these periods when I am altered and transformed, I never come back to the point where I was before. I'm moving like 50 steps in the future, I come back only 30 steps. So I never go back to 50 steps before. And then I move, I don't know, 60, and I come back only 30 steps or whatever. So because of whatever energy is allowed for me to keep pushing forward. And as much as cleanliness, and which basically directs the power that I have to do this, allows me to make this jump as much as I can, or as further as I can. And in this sense, for me, it's really unpleasant to exist here, because everything feels like it has expired. It's not just that, but it's like running into a wall. There's all this normal experiences that most people still enjoy and feel like they're full, like when you're at the beginning of something and it's new and whatever, you have like, I explained to you, it's like when it feels new, it's like that energy of that concept hasn't been explored. So you're just at the beginning of that exploration. When you have absorbed it, the point where you started goes back to a point where it's done. It's like it's kind of like this. I don't know what to mean, like a bubble, whatever. You start at this point, expands, and then comes back, and then you're out. And then I want to like move forward, but like this reality allows for very little things to like go further, whatever I want them. Well, although somehow I break this space-time continuum, no matter what, from time to time. So in this sense, feels like most of the time I run into a wall with everything that I do, and it takes a lot of energy to just to pretend that I'm like, I'm the same, or like how most people think that life is. So I have to do other things to keep me busy, to like forget this overimposed limitations, but at the same time I'm much more resilient, and I stop, and then I just see, it's like I'm just gonna allow for these things to just fold, and they're just illusions. So the more I clear, these things will just fade away either way. But yeah, at times it's not easy because of this, as I said, superimposed things. So that's why these times are so tricky for everyone, but especially when one is so far away on this path. Yeah, I hope this was interesting and helpful. See you next time. Ciao. Matters here, and this is actually becoming alive, and aliveness is more than